On today's show, training camp underway here in Bradenton, Florida. I'll talk about day one at IMG Academy, plus why I am buying as much DeAndre Hunter stock as I can possibly get. We'll talk about that on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everybody, my name is Danny Cunningham, and you might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. And I just want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, and of course, be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get started, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5. And if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Training camp underway here in Florida as the Cavs had their first formal practice on Tuesday at IMG Academy. Not able to watch practice, but of course we are in at the very end of it, and you see some guys shooting around and then have your media availabilities. But there are certainly things that I think are newsworthy to come out of day one of practice, right? Like media day, everybody in a good mood. There are some newsier things that we talked about on yesterday's show. And the one thing that I thought was newsworthy today, there were a couple. I want to talk about the starting lineup because I think the DeAndre Hunter question, for the most part, has been answered as far as him being the starting small forward. And I don't think that is going to be a temporary thing. I do think that will be a permanent thing for the Cavs. But I do think the temporary thing, because it does not sound like Darius Garland is going to start the season. And we've been talking about this for the past several weeks as it has. I don't know if trended in that direction is the right way to say it, because I think that has always been the case. But Kenny Atkinson came out and said, not what the starting lineup is going to be opening night, because things can change between now. It is 10 o'clock on September 30th as I record this right now. So it can change a lot now in 3 weeks from now when the Cavs open up their regular season, or 4 weeks, however many weeks it is, open up their regular season in New York against the Knicks. Things can change a lot, right? 3 weeks from today is their first regular season game. And I think the starting lineup is going to be Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. And Kenny Atkinson today came out and said that that is going to be the group that, while he's not writing it in stone, he's not writing it in pen, and he shouldn't be, because these things should be subject to change. Like maybe that runs out there in preseason games and doesn't look good. Maybe that group can't figure out a way to get it to click in practice and doesn't look good. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but that's going to be the group that gets the first crack at it for the Cavs. Atkinson came out essentially and said as much on Tuesday afternoon at IMG Academy. And I think that this is the right starting lineup for the Cavs. I think that this is the direction that they should go, provided that everything clicks the way that they expect it to. And one of the biggest reasons why is I think that while it maybe isn't getting the 5 best players, right? Like, I don't know that Sam Merrill is the 5th best available member of the Cavs right now. I think he could potentially be, but I don't know that he is for sure. So I don't know that this is the 5 best players, but I do think that this is a lineup that maximizes everybody that's in it, right? And as I say that, I am mostly speaking about DeAndre Hunter, and I'm mostly speaking about Sam Merrill. I don't know that this is, I know that this is not the long-term solution, right? Because at some point, Darius Garland will be back in the starting lineup because he will be healthy. He will be on the floor. He will be active. That's just not going to be at the start of the regular season. But I do think that while maybe this is putting a little bit on Donovan Mitchell's plate in terms of playmaking, in terms of ball handling, and I also think it is putting those very same things on Evan Mobley's plate as something that he's going to have to do a little bit more frequently than what he's done in the past. But I look at this and say, okay, this slides DeAndre Hunter into his natural position at small forward. This puts him in the spot where I think he would be set up to be the most successful, is at that small forward spot. Last year, he played a lot of power forward, and it was good for the Cavs, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as good as when he played small forward. This puts Sam Merrill at shooting guard, which is his natural position. And he can play small forward, and he will play small forward at times this year. But I look at it and say, setting him up for success is by playing him in his natural position. So if you are starting this group together, which again, I believe the Cavs will do, and this is the group that's I expect this group to be successful. And I don't know that there's going to need to be another group that gets a crack at the starting lineup. And you kind of look up and down the roster. Like, I think at this point, like, it's fair to say DeAndre is going to start. I don't think that's a mystery. Sam, I think makes the most sense, because if you look at the other options, do you want to start Jalen Tyson at the 2? I think he's going to have a role. I think he's going to be important, but I think putting him in the starting lineup might just be a little bit much. Do you want to start Lonzo Ball in the backcourt and have Donovan Mitchell at his natural shooting guard position? I think that might actually be the best 5-man lineup, and maybe the 5 best players. But I look at it and say, well, Lonzo Ball is not going to, in all likelihood, play back-to-backs at the start of the season. He said as much at media day on Monday. He is a health risk, right? Like, the best indicator of future injury, unfortunately, is previous injury. So he is somebody that has that injury risk label, and the Cavs have to do everything in their power to make sure that he stays healthy and make sure that he is available and healthy when the postseason arrives, because that is the most important thing for him. That is the most important thing for the Cavs. They didn't acquire Lonzo Ball so that he could be a big difference maker in the regular season. They acquired him because they think he can be a helpful player in the postseason. That's the thing that matters. So I don't think putting him in the starting lineup is the way to go. And Craig Porter Jr., not necessarily the way to go, even though that would shift Donovan Mitchell to his, again, natural small forward position. But I look at this and say, Sam Merrill is the best option of what the Cavs have right now to be in that starting lineup. He obviously will not be in the starting lineup when the regular season arrives. That's not where he's going to be. But right now, with Max Strus out, with Darius Garland out, I think that is the lineup that makes the most sense for the Cavs. And I'm not even sure, because Kenny Atkinson said this is the group that gets the first crack at being the starting 5. If this group doesn't work, I don't know where you go next. I don't know what the next group would be. Like, it might have to be and just because of who is injured, it might have to be Lonzo Ball, which I don't think would be the best thing. I think he would be best served on this roster as being a really good bench piece that can run the offense, that can do some really fun things and can change this team for the better. I think that would be the best role for him. I don't think being in the starting 5 is what he should be, and that's fine. But I look at this and say, I think this is going to work. I think this is the best 5 that right now the Cavs can put together for a starting lineup. But I also look at it and say, I don't really know what the alternative is, because you look down that list, you look at other shooting guards, none of those guys you look at and say, yeah, they should be in the starting lineup immediately. Or you look at small forwards, like maybe it is Dean Wade starting at small forward. But again, I'm hesitant to go there because of what we know about DeAndre Hunter and the conversations he's had with Kenny Atkinson about being a starter, and the fact that Kenny has all but alluded to it in public settings over the past couple of weeks. DeAndre alluded to it in a public setting on Monday. I just think that is kind of the thing that is decided here. So I look at it and say, I really don't know if I see an alternative starting lineup than Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. Now, this is going to be the starting lineup because Darius Garland is not going to start the season. We did get a small, brief update on him on Monday, and Kenny Atkinson, I asked him, what is Darius Garland's practice look like right now? Because we have not had a ton of confirmed information about this. Like, Darius talked very briefly, I thought, at media day about this on Monday, and we don't have, and I understand why, and I'm not saying that we should, but we don't have a firm timetable for his return. It has been assumed, I think, both by us folks in the media and by the Cavs with their own words that Garland is not going to be available, as I said, 3 weeks from today in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. And that's fine. We don't know when he's going to be available, but what he did on Tuesday was he had 45 minutes of individual work, according to Kenny Atkinson, said that Garland did not take any contact, so he was not part of the team stuff. And the Cavs, for the record here too, did not scrimmage on Tuesday, according to Atkinson. He said that is going to be part of the plan in all likelihood for Wednesday's practice. So it'll be very interesting to see who he's speaking glowingly of coming out of that scrimmage on Wednesday. That would be certainly will be a talking point tomorrow, but Garland, I would imagine, won't participate in that, and that's fine. But Kenny did say that he looks good. He's moving very quickly in short spaces, but he's happy with where he's at right now. He also said, don't read too much into this. And we're talking about this in the first segment today, so we are reading into this. But the thing that I think there is to read into it is it's like, yeah, this is kind of what the Cavs have said. They have said without Darius, whether it's been players speaking, Kenny speaking, Kobe Altman speaking, everybody at some point, I believe, has said, without Darius to start the season, the fact that he's doing individual work 3 weeks and not team stuff 3 weeks before the start of the regular season, given what the goals for the Cavs are this year, given what the rest of this roster looks like, given the fact that Kenny Atkinson gave out a starting lineup that is going to get the first crack at it, I think it's fair to say Darius Garland not going to begin the regular season healthy and active for the Cavs. Now, I mentioned DeAndre Hunter quite a bit in this segment. I'm buying all the stock I can get in Hunter. I think he's going to go out, and I think he's going to have a great year, and I think it's going to be better than what he was last year. I'll tell you all the reasons why I believe that next, right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Your Cleveland Browns are in London this week. It's probably not going to go well. And the Browns right now are 3.5-point underdogs. And I don't ever like saying this. I don't like saying, yes, we should bet against the home team. That's not my favorite thing to do. But the streets are talking right now about the Browns, and the streets are saying that Dylan Gabriel is going to start at quarterback, and maybe we find out more about that on Wednesday. But the thing that I look at here is, so they're playing the Vikings, which on paper, like the Browns being 3.5-point underdogs of the Vikings, not a big deal, right? Especially at a neutral site game. However, the Vikings, they played in Europe last week. They're playing in Europe again this week. The Browns are leaving Wednesday to go to Europe. The Vikings right there, they have the advantage. They have been in Europe for over a week already. They have adjusted to that time zone. They know where they're at right now. I think the Browns only getting 3.5 points feels wildly unfair this week. I hate to say it, but I like the Vikings. I really do. I didn't talk about the Guardians here because it makes me sad that they lost on Tuesday. So, but I don't see with the Browns this week, as sad as it makes me to say. So what are you waiting for? Because that bet right there could be your first $5 bet. And if it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets if it's your first $5 bet with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com today. That is FanDuel.com today to download the FanDuel app and get started. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show, like I said earlier, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And DeAndre Hunter, I believe, is going to be in the starting lineup. Everything is pointed to that this year. And I believe that DeAndre Hunter is going to have a great season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm buying all the DeAndre Hunter stock that I can get. And if we could rewind a little bit to Locked On's NBA Top 100 list, and I was much higher on Hunter than consensus. I had him rated above Jarrett Allen, and Allen was, I believe, in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, or 50s, excuse me. He was at number 57 on the NBA Top 100 list. I had him in the 60s. I had DeAndre Hunter one spot ahead of him, and Hunter came in at number 88 overall. And I understand that, but I look at this and just say, DeAndre Hunter is going to have a great season for the Cavs. And I think a lot of this has to do with sometimes we can lose sight of professional athletes as people. And this has less to do with actual basketball stuff because he was pretty good for the Cavs last year. Like he shot over 42% from three. He did a lot of really good things. But I also don't know that he was ever truly comfortable. And he had a quote on Tuesday that really stuck out to me. And he talked about getting comfortable with the organization and the people in the organization, whether it's front office executives, coaching staff members, teammates, ball boys, any of it. Like you have an entire organization that you have to get comfortable with after you have spent, in DeAndre Hunter's case, his entire career in Atlanta with the Hawks. So for Hunter to have to get comfortable coming over in February from a team that was competing for a play-in spot and had no real championship aspirations to join a team that was in the midst of a 16-game winning streak and very much believed that it could win the championship last year, which, let's face it, I do think they were capable of it. They didn't go out and do it, but them winning the title last year would not have come to some shock to anybody in the month of February when they were on that second incredible hot streak of the season. But Hunter talked about having a full offseason in Cleveland, having a full training camp in Cleveland, and being able to be somebody that can now be comfortable. And he said when he came over last year that he felt like somebody who was wanted, right? And we all want to be wanted in all aspects of life, right? Like you want to be wanted at work. You want your company or other companies to want you because that means that you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel like you do a great job. You're going to, when you feel desired, whether it's at work, personal life, relationship, it boosts your confidence. It helps you feel good about yourself. And DeAndre said he felt wanted in Cleveland last year. And I don't think that that's the wrong way to look at it because they gave up Karis LeVert, who had been a big part of their success. They gave up George Niang, who I think was probably a bigger part of the success in Cleveland than anybody realized. And I don't necessarily mean the actual on-floor stuff. Like he was fine, but I think the off-the-court stuff that George brought to the table was really important for that Cavs team. And I do think they missed that. And I think there are a few things on the floor he did that they missed. But the Cavs gave up stuff of value that they had. Like they valued the pieces they gave up to get DeAndre Hunter. So of course he felt wanted. But because of the situation he entered, where the Cavs had the best record in the East, they were at that point, I think only 4 or 5 games into their winning streak, but they had been just lights out to that point in the season. He said he didn't feel needed. And I do think there is an added level of confidence that you can get, again, professionally, as an athlete, in your relationships, when you feel needed, like when you feel like my presence is required to make this situation better. Being wanted and being needed are two different things. And DeAndre said he didn't feel needed last year. And that was, to me, something that like raised my eyebrows because I look at that and say, you know what? I do think he was needed, but I understand why he didn't feel that way. Because when you come into a situation where a team has championship expectations and they really have a roster that, was it perfect? No, but there were very few holes. And it felt like at the time, the addition of Hunter was what a great cherry on top of the sundae. And you don't need the cherry for the sundae to be great. Like the sundae is all about the ice cream, sometimes the whipped cream, maybe nuts or a banana. If that's your flavor, it's not mine, but maybe it's yours. And the cherry is just like kind of there. And sometimes you throw it out. Sometimes you eat it. I typically don't. It's kind of what DeAndre Hunter was. Now, I do think he is very much a necessity for this Cavs team. I look at what he can do both offensively and defensively. And I look at how things are going to be shaped differently around him, right? Like I asked him about this at Media Day on Monday, and he didn't want to talk about having a preference between playing the 3 or the 4. And I understand why. But I do think if you look at his skill set, like he very clearly is a small forward. And I think that the Cavs playing him more in his natural position, the way that I talked about with this starting lineup that he will in all likelihood be part of, I think that says we need you to be who you are. We need you to not try and do these other things. We need you to be you. And last year, I don't know that they just needed him to go out and be him because they had all of these other things and they had already proven that they could win at a very high level. And I think that can be a complicated situation to be in. So when you bring that in and add the fact that Hunter has sort of described himself as an introvert, and Kenny Atkinson talked about the comfort level DeAndre Hunter has shown so far this year and where it compares to where he was when he got over from Atlanta last year. And I just add all of those things up. And it's really difficult for me to look at this situation and think, you know what, this is for him individually, I think a better basketball situation, being in the starting lineup, playing more small forward, having a much more legitimate level of comfort, right? And Ty Jerome's name was brought up because DeAndre and Ty are obviously very close. And Ty not being here, I don't think like it's something where it makes DeAndre step out of his comfort zone. I think Ty being here last year was a boost for DeAndre, and it made it easier for him to adjust to Cleveland. But now I just look at this entire situation and hearing too what was said a week ago when Kenny Atkinson and Kobe Altman talked, and they said DeAndre Hunter's been one of our best players all summer. Last year, they said the same thing about Ty Jerome, and everyone kind of chuckled about it. And then Ty Jerome went out and had a great season. And I don't think that DeAndre is going to be like maybe not a finalist for any awards this year. And I know that he was the favorite for sixth man of the year on FanDuel. I don't know if he still is. I've not looked at those odds today. Would not take that bet because I think he's going to be a starter all year. And I think he's going to have a great year. And I think that the Cavs are going to look like, yeah, we need you. We want you. And all of this is working out perfectly. I think that is what this season is going to be for DeAndre Hunter this year. Now, the first day of training camp means you're going to hear some of the stuff you hear the first day of training camp every single year. I want to, that's right, talk about pace. We're going to talk about the pace of the Cavs next, right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is Training Reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and most importantly, reach your peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. Plus, the swivel screen is a game changer because you can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And finally, the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe, and energy level every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That is onepeloton.com. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you are watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button as we continue to talk about Cavs training camp right here on Locked On Cavs on YouTube. Make sure you're also subscribed to the channel. That's the best way you can help grow this show. So every year at just about every single training camp, the very first, and this is not necessarily a media day thing. This is a training camp day one thing. One of the things that is always brought up is we want to play with more pace this year, right? It was a theme last year in Cleveland. Even before Kenny Atkinson was here, JB Bickerstaff at times would talk about pace. They want to play a little faster. And then next thing you know, they finished 28th in pace. Last year, the Cavs made a jump in pace. They did. They talked about it before the season, and then they were about it during the season. It's actually funny. If you go back and look at the Cavs' first preseason game last year, I don't remember who the opponent was, but they played at such an obscene pace. as sort of like this way to say, hey, we're serious about this. We're going to fly up and down the court. Like their pace was legitimately in the 130s last year in that one game. And then it falls off because it always does. And for the full season last year, the Cavs finished with the 10th quickest pace in the NBA, which I think is fine. I actually am going to take the other side of the coin here. I don't think the Cavs need to play with more pace. I think their pace is fine. Could they get into stuff a little bit sooner? And I think what your definition of pace is probably is a little bit different than what the Cavs want their definition of pace to be. Like, I do think that by their definition, could they play with a little bit more pace? Sure. Now, what is their definition? I think their definition is getting into their offense sooner. It's not necessarily playing like you are the 7 seconds or less Suns, because I think that'd be bad. I don't think this team is built for that. I think there might be some lineups that are, but the team as a whole is not built for that. But their version of pace is getting into their offense sooner. And I think when preseason games begin next week, one thing to watch for is what does the shot clock say when the Cavs make their first meaningful move in the half court? That, I think, is a better indicator of pace than what the raw pace number is going to be on NBA.com or whatever advanced stat site you want to use. That's going to be a better indicator of it. And I think that could that improve a little bit? Sure. But like the Cavs were 10th in pace last year, and I would actually expect that to drop this year. I would not be surprised if they're closer to 15 than they are 10. And part of the reason why that would not surprise me is last year they had, for all intents and purposes, and I'm going to, for the sake of this conversation, consider Dean Wade to be a wing, because that's more so what I think his skill set is. Their playable bigs were Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. Tristan Thompson, like if he was in the game, something went wrong. That's what their playable bigs were last year. This year, they're going to play two bigs much more frequently than they did last year, provided everyone is healthy, because they've got a third big in Larry Nance Jr., who is still a very good player. Like, he is at a much different point in his career right now than where Tristan Thompson was. And even to push beyond that, I think Thomas Bryant right now is a more serviceable big as your fourth big for the Cavs than Tristan Thompson was. So the Cavs are just at a point where they've got so much more depth at that spot. And typically, when you do have that kind of rotation where you have multiple bigs that can play significant minutes, your pace is going to drop. And I don't think that pace is like a true bellwether for whether or not a team is good or not. Like, if you look at the top of the pace rankings, oftentimes bad teams are up there because they don't know what they're doing offensively. So it's just like, hey, let's run really fast. Maybe we can score points like that, because we don't actually know how to operate in the half court. So I do think that this number gets a little bit overrated. It is the same thing that we hear every single year. We will hear about pace through the preseason. We'll probably hear about pace until the month of November. And it's just like, oh yeah, the Cavs are just really good because they're really good. And like, the pace is important in getting into your actions offensively matter, but also trying to be the 7 seconds or less Suns would be a bad idea. There's playing with pace. There's flying up and down the floor. And I think that kind of the happy medium would be playing with urgency. And I think that is the way that I would more accurately describe what the Cavs should be striving for. I think that they should want to be an urgent basketball team. I think that if they have that sense, they'll be in a really good spot on both ends of the floor. I do think that maybe there are times where they could play with a little bit more pace defensively. And by that, I mean applying more pressure on the basketball, not necessarily 94 feet, but what about 75 feet? Like, can you make teams legitimately work for a longer period of time when they have the basketball? I think that should be a point of emphasis for this Cavs team. And I think if they do that, they're going to be better off for it. Now, day one in the books, day two coming up on Wednesday. We will have so much more to get to because training camp finally underway. We are less than a week now from the first preseason game for the Cavaliers. As I mentioned, 3 weeks from now, the Cavs will be in New York for their season opening game against the Knicks. I can't wait for it. I know you can't wait for it either. So thanks for hanging out with me today right here on Locked on Cavs. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. And of course, be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked on Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get out of here, do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. And I'll be back tomorrow talking more Cavs.